Hello, my friends, and a wonderful Saturday to you all. I hope you're doing well. Today, I would like to have a discussion about greed, but in order to do so, I must first define my parameters. Namely, that I'm not one of those guys who thinks that anyone who has wealth is greedy, or that all rich people should burn in hell, or whatever other ideas people might have about the wealthy. I understand polarity. I know that there has always been wealth and there's always been the lack thereof. Call it poor, call it the, proletariats, the blue collar workers. And I'm one of them. So I understand. I get up and go to work because I need to help my family survive in this world. That's why most of us work. Not because we're trying to make a big profit on something, but usually most of us are just working to improve life for our family and those that we love. It's a very simple concept. But beyond the average person, there is a small subset of people, I should say a large subset of people, I don't know the percentage, who are very go getters and whose intention is to make a lot of money. Now, not all go getters are into money. This is the important key factor, and I'm going to get to this in a minute. But I wanted to make it clear, first off, that I'm not jealous of rich people. And but there are some who are very jealous and hateful, and they hate that type of progress because what wealth can create is not necessarily what they would create. In other words, there are a lot of people out here who believe that the money that we do make, which is just our translated energy into, numbers. We all know that money is not real, but we agree upon it. It's one of the most amazing things in society is money. Not just that each nation agrees upon their wealth, but that all the nations together agree among each other on exchanges of wealth and rates based on GDP, based on so many factors that you and I just can't even comprehend. Even top economists have a hard time grasping the breadth of what's actually going on out there. So, in other words, during this crazy time in history, there is more wealth being consolidated among a lot fewer people. This has been shown, statistically and proven, well proven that a large amount of the money has flown to the top 1% over the past, say, 10 years, especially the last 5 years after COVID. So, wealth is not the same as greed, and I just wanted to make that clear. So, to move on, um, I think what a lot of people have an issue with as well, with people who are wealthy, is that they want things, quote, fair. And we could talk about equality of outcome versus opportunity and all these different little clickbaity shit that people talk about where, everyone has the same chances, then somebody will argue no, somebody else doesn't have the same chances. And in reality, it's a fucking mess out there. We're fighting amongst each other about which color or which gender or whatever should be able to attain whichever services, when in fact we all pay a shitload of fucking taxes. And we all deserve to have better services, because if people knew how much money was spent by, say, lobbyists in Congress to various officials, senators, congresspeople, right? You've got even mayors and down to the local police chiefs. Send them a box of donuts. Here, vote for me. This kind of shit has always been going on, but it's so much worse than it ever was now. And a lot of the politics are driven by billionaires because they're the ones who have the money and the resources and the time to spend on changing policies. So that's kind of part of another story, but it's an important part of the story. You have to remember that things and ideas and projects are created by people, usually an individual person who has an idea, who shares that with somebody else who either has the same idea or hadn't considered that angle of it. And they work together, they create an amazing product. Then a larger company comes and either buys them out or buys a patent before they can on something that they use and then sues them for their company. I mean, these things are happening all the time, but this is what I consider greed. It's not in the amount of money you have, and it's not even whether you're an individual or a corporation. It's what are your intentions? Because greed is eating us alive, but it's only a few people. It's not all people who are wealthy. It's not all people who are, interested in making more money or taking action. A lot of people could do well with enough money to help other causes. But a lot of folks just want money to have money. And it's a huge difference in the way we view things. It's always fascinated me that, the terms we use for money are things like currency, as in a current, and then flow, cash flow. The whole reason being because it was always designed to keep moving. And just because a person is wealthy doesn't mean that they're not spending the money. This is something I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, there's a big misconception that people who are extremely wealthy, just hoard their money. The fact is, somebody's got to build those mansions. Somebody's got to maintain those grounds. Somebody's got to serve them, bring them their food, make the tables and the furniture. I'm a carpenter. Somebody's got to build these things and do these things. I get it. There is a lot of money being put out. Even if a wealthy person is spending money frivolously, building 10 homes of their own, yeah, there's a lot of greed involved in that. But at the same time, it does create a lot of work, at least in the meantime. But I think in the long run, then they just become the biggest landholders. And this is another aspect that's overlooked. It's fine that a wealthy person has a big house and a fancy car. But to buy up available land, farmland, and then buy up housing tracts and entire neighborhoods like some of these groups like BlackRock have done. I mean, it's different. It's a different ball game. There used to be realtors that worked for a local real estate company. Go look at the houses now that are for sale. Berkshire Hathaway, which is owned by Warren Buffett. And by the way, I've got no beef with Buffett. He's one of the few guys that I would say I consider him not a good guy, but at least a decent human being as a billionaire. He's not trying to prove himself to anybody. He does, free speeches for folks and tells them about how to make money. And he's got his thing, his shtick, and money was just his thing. But he does drive, last time I saw, like a little beater Honda or something, and he still works out there in Iowa, at the building that he's worked at. And, the guy has made a lot of money, but that's his fascination. It's numbers, making money. And some people are just interested in the money, not really even spending it, right? And then there are folks who live these lavish lifestyles. And here's the thing. If you're earning it, that's one thing. But if you're working for the U.S. government, if you're working for my tax dollars being paid to you, and you're living these crazy lavish lifestyles and have these huge houses, like, let's put it this way. Even if you are, say, the head of the CIA, right? Or the NSA, or any of these three-letter organizations, the very head, what kind of places do you think these guys live in? I don't know. But my guess, judging by what I've seen a lot of upper-level government people living, they probably live in pretty nice houses compared to the average person that they work for, which is the population, right? The people. And I guess that's one thing. But then you've got people like Nancy Pelosi that, they have insider information and they do, they make millions of dollars and then they laugh it off when they get caught. It's people just don't really know what to do about this kind of just ridiculous wealth. Like, do you need more? You've got tens of millions of dollars. Are you going to really spend it when you're 80 fucking years old? What kind of a mentality is that? And I've always say, it's funny because you hear about people on their deathbed, and you never hear them saying, I wish I'd made more money. I guess some people do go out being total grumpy fox, but, usually people say, I wish I'd cared about my family more than I did money. It brings me to a term I came up with, or a slogan, or what would it be? A saying. I'm sure there's a proper term for it, but um, don't let your income be more important than your outcome. And I don't know if anyone else has said that. I'm sure somebody has, but I coined the phrase, damn it. And so it's it's important that if we make a lot of money, we're not sacrificing our life and the people we love in the meantime. You know, relationships are hard. Raising kids is hard. Watching your parents die is hard. Being part of a community and a family is hard. But we do it because it's what we do. And it's so difficult for so many of us to not just navigate it emotionally, but having to work every day, say during a major crisis, somebody just died, and you have to work all week, then come home and deal with these other problems. And then you think, man, these people, in Congress are going on these long vacations to, Martha's Vineyard and staying in these wild, lavish places when they travel, and these diplomats and the treatment they get. It's wrong. I suppose maybe it's just kind of a compensation for people to say, hey, come into government service. I mean, you'll get treated well. But when I see how much money is spent on even that, this is why when people just blame the wealthy, I say, even if all the wealthiest people in this country gave up all of their money, all of it, right now, it would barely fucking make a dent in the problems this country has with overspending. Yeah, what's that going to do? What would it actually do? I mean, tax the rich has always been this kind of go-to thing, and I get it. Makes sense. Yeah, they do pay lower rates overall. And yeah, Amazon did pay no tax in like 2020 or something at all, because they use stock buybacks. You buy back your own stock and then you spend your profits, and then you don't have any profits. It's a game they've been playing forever, and this is how they get richer. And then they lobby Congress to keep these things going. Not to harp on that, but yeah, that's the problem we have right now, is money, money and money and money and greed, because people are never satisfied with what they have. So the best way I've heard it said is, there are the makers and there are the takers. We're the makers, the ones who create, the ones who build. If you work for someone else, not only are they charging the client a profit on top of all the labor of their employees, but they're also probably charging double your rate. So for example, if I get $40 an hour as a carpenter, and my boss would be charging 80 at least, and that would be double. So out of that, he has to pay certain taxes, of course. I've owned a business, I know. I mean, I ran my own I didn't hire any employees, and I know that they can be expensive, but I have looked into it to see, at the time, and yeah, it adds some more, but you're still profiting on them, plus on the job, and that's okay. You're getting the extra cost for the extra stress. That makes sense. But then at some level, you realize what the more expensive a company becomes, the more the CEOs get these exorbitant bonuses, millions of dollars, and make up to 300 times more than the average employee in their own company. That's pretty sad. And, well, I guess my question would be, what do we do about it? And I don't have a solution to that. I don't think anyone really does. Like I said, wealth isn't going anywhere. Being wealthy isn't the problem at the same time. I heard Manly Hall describe it once. He said, if you do come across money, just remember, it's not your money. You see, you're a custodian of wealth. And all through nature, energy representing money representing energy and the energy that's put forth. So if labor creates money, then it's our energy, our collective energy that creates it, right? Even if it's all just agreed upon. So you are controlling a vast amount of energy that other people created. It's like other people's hard work and sweat and tears, right? If you hoard that and you don't give back to your communities, to your local state areas, where being part of the society that you make the money in, then it collapses. And this is what we have with a lot of problems with globalization, or moving jobs overseas and not protecting really what we have here. And that's not about shutting out other countries, because I'm in full support of cooperation. We need this worldwide. But we also need to realize that the most important thing we can protect is our own family, right here. As I said, what's important to me is my family. And beyond that, my community. Beyond that, my state. Then my country. And I think everybody feels the same way. And you'll always protect your own first, your own borders, because that's what you know. That's what you've grown up with. There's no reason not to. Of course, this is changing. A lot of people in America claim they hate America, and that they, are the self-defined communists are coming back, which I just find hilarious. This complete, neglect of understanding of history, which I'm fascinated by many of the concepts of Marx and Marxism, totally misunderstood by the left and the right, if you will. But in the middle is this idea that we can just, redistribute everything we have, and nobody really has any real plans for government. Look, I would love to be an anarchist, but at this point, we have no other chance than to have at least some of the services we have protecting us, because so many people hate America at this point. If we hadn't dug our own hole, if we had just been on the defense and fucked off after World War II and minded our own business and put love into our country instead of going to Vietnam and all these different wars that we've just wasted money, resources, and people on, and pissed so many people off, that we could actually have like an amazing country right now and still be well protected. But we choose not to. We stick our nose in everybody's fucking business. The world police. A lot of people agree with that and say it's necessary. And I think in some cases we need to be able to protect ourselves. We should listen, but it doesn't mean we should get involved and have coups to overthrow other governments. That was the biggest mistake we ever made. And we've done it dozens of times, through the Middle East, through South America, Cuba, the attempt on, like the Bay of Pigs, the most embarrassing thing, America could have gone through at the time. And the failed invasion, if you will. But none of it has to happen. If people could just hold their, get their war boners down and just fucking talk about shit and just be responsible adults. Just seems out of the question for so many people. But that's where I need to end on greed, because war takes most of the money. And when we talk about greed, there are very few more greedy companies than those who create weapons to kill, and that justify that by talking about defense, And we know how most of these weapons are used. They're very rarely used in defense. The biggest weapons are used in offense. And we've got some really serious soul searching to do, I guess, as a species. Because I don't think we can really get over this as a people. And the more technology that we have at our disposal, the more likely we are to make a mistake. And I just hope we don't. At least long enough for me and my kids to live our lives, right? But what about their kids? What about their kids? And that's why it does matter. It does matter that we protect the future as best we can by raising our kids to not be complete, selfish, greedy dumbasses. Because, as I said before, most things that you see around you, most of the amazing discoveries that you have, the inventions of various plastics and technologies that you enjoy in your everyday life were not created by the government, okay? They were created by people. They weren't even created by the military. The military will go in and subcontract with a company that's already building. These things are made by the people. They always have been. Therefore, the people sticking together still have the greatest chance of, you know, fixing these problems because we're not looking to kill each other and make money off of weaponry. Imagine what we could do if we used that technology to improve our own grid, improve our own system. We'll see. Maybe one day. Until then, I bid you farewell. Wish us all luck on this planet. You know, talk to you next time.